Hey, welcome everybody. Welcome to the show. We've got a good one for you today. We're talking Iran, Biden his time, and Ukraine's offensive operations in Russia. It's kind of an old school throwback show. If you look at the thumbnail, which I don't have that I can show right now, the thumbnail is like one of our old ones with a big Russian tank. And we've got a map segment, Joe.
It's so
Because
old school. It's just you and me.
I know, right? This is the old school. Um, yeah, this is our first, kind of normal show after the our live event. That was a lot of fun that we had there in Montana. One of the things I don't think I said this on any of the shows over the last weekend. But one of the things that struck me, because I've never been to Montana before, and I've spent a lot of time in the woods, both at night and military career, but also as a Boy Scout and just hanging out in the woods as a kid, right? The woods in Montana is different than the woods in the southeast United States, where even the pine forest down there in Georgia, very different from the well, those are mostly pines. Maybe it's like, I don't know. What do you think the mix is? Maybe 50-50?
For pines versus hardwoods, it's mostly
Yeah,
pine. There's a little bit of
mostly
hardwood.
pines.
Probably more like 75-25.
Yeah,
But
okay. I'd say that's true.
it's sort of a temperate rainforest kind of deal, right? Green year round,
Yeah.
moisture, all that kind of stuff. Lots of wildlife. We did see some interesting creatures while we were there. Uh, we saw some badgers who executed the best break contact drill I've ever seen uh, conducted. There
Yeah.
were some bears, there were some lions, there was a little bit of everything. So good times.
Yeah, a lot of wildlife, if you will. Scott's alive. So Friday we were absolutely supposed to have a regular show, but my wife called an audible. Not only did we go to Seoul that day, um, but we also spent the night in Seoul and didn't get back until Saturday. So that was the reason why I was out of the loop. And I think everybody was still kind of getting their feet back underneath them. Having you just got home, I think, right on Friday, or was it Thursday night? Thursday you got home.
Me? No, I didn't actually leave until Monday. So I got home
Ah,
Wednesday.
okay. Okay. Oh, no, no. Okay. Okay. I Wednesday of last week.
Oh wait, no, you're right. I did leave Wednesday. I was confused. It's been a
Yeah.
long 2 weeks or 3 weeks or however long it's been. You're right. I left the day after I dropped you off. So I did leave on Wednesday and I got home on Friday. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that's right. And I think Watcher went home and then now is back in Montana. It's hard to follow that boy and what he and all his adventures.
Well, he had to pick something up for me from some
Yeah.
friends. So
Some
who
friends.
did an outstanding job on that conversion and that paint job. So
Yeah, I need to see a picture of that, Joe. I'm sure they probably sent you one. So
oh, you haven't seen it. I will drop it in the private chat right
yeah,
now.
yeah, I definitely would like to see that.
Man, is it nice. I gotta find my phone first, but it's nice.
And I want to just say there, a couple people in the chat were there at the event, and Scott's dad owes me a bottle of bourbon. To hear tell the stories, he's the bourbon master of Kentucky, which
So
I never
Scott's
knew.
dad and Watcher, they were both involved in the theft of that. I told Ron that it was an emergency because they were making Derby pie. Ron was not impressed.
Ah,
He still wants this bottle of bourbon, so I'll get it for it.
yeah. Anyway, some folks in the chat that we met in person had a great time meeting everybody involved. Lot of good connections, I think, made that will help the channel going forward in the future. Hopefully, we'll have some things to announce, on those on that front in days and weeks to come. And we are going to start targeting a week for next for next year, if we can narrow it down to a week, like 2 weekends in a week, then we'll get a little closer as we get probably maybe. What do you think, Joe? When do you think we'll know the weekend that we'll target for next?
End of next week. I needed some time to decompress before I started diving in, but I have been talking to Brandon and some of the others already. So
yeah, and I think if we get that date out there, we'll be able to coordinate with some of the other people who do trainings and things like that. So we'll be able to. So I think the idea for this event is essentially to have like the Shield Field Days on the weekend. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, right? Friday evening, Saturday, Sunday day. And then the week, just like literally the 5 days before that week, have
CFC
trainings
events.
And just people who are associated with CFC coming up there and doing training. And so if you ever wanted to take one of Joe's classes, that would be the time to do it. Or if we can maybe get Matt out or some other guys, that would be the bucket list, right?
If you want to join a farming cult, if you know.
Oh, good dudes. Yeah, I mean, the nicest cultists I've ever met.
He's gonna string me up from his tree the next time I'm down there. So,
well, he's gonna cut your shirt off of you first things first. It's like
right.
One of us.
If you're watching, Joel, we love you, brother. We're just having fun.
Yeah, genuinely one of the nicest people. One of the nicest people that I met the whole event was Joel, and what they got going on down there.
Yeah, it's really
in the Hinter boonies. Yeah. I mean, just some of the. I mean, I don't know much about farming, so I have to take it. When I talk to a guy like that, I just take his word for it because he's very knowledgeable. But just some of the things, that they're doing are really great. The guy loves the Lord. It's hard to anybody who has Christ in him. It's kind of hard to.
That dude has got some pretty solid background there. The coolest interaction I saw the whole weekend was you and Pastor Joe Fox of Viking Preparedness. Y'all were like instant homies, and you guys had some pretty deep conversations. So.
Yeah, I was really impressed by him. It's always cool, like when you kind of peel back the layers to the onion. Like I had heard about him and I knew he had a military background, but once he and I started talking, we found a lot of common ground. And I hope we can get him out there for the next event that we do.
He would put out some videos over the weekend that would seem to indicate that's the plan. He and his wife really enjoyed the area, really liked hanging out with Brandon and Seth and all that good stuff. So, they got the same tour we did. I told him we took the tour the day after he did. So,
well, I invited him to come on the show, and I think he is absolutely willing to do so. It's just a matter of getting good connectivity. I know that they have maybe a little less than awesome internet at their location, so. We'll have to coordinate that and figure out the time and place to make that happen because I definitely want to share what he has to say with this audience. All right, Sniper, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. It actually rained last night in the desert and didn't all dry up before morning, so that's interesting. Got food in front of the kids and came by to visit.
Well, I've been seeing a lot of people put out there, like a lot of the long-term drought that people have seen in the American West, both from the north to the south, showing indications that is going away. So it's good to see. It's good to see that the rain's getting where it needs to go.
Well, we're okay on water after the massive record snowfall we had 2 years ago. But just, this is that hot, dry part of the year. And so getting water, it brings the temperatures down. It if the cloud cover stays, I might feel like I'm not going to die today. I can breathe this morning because, there's actually some moisture in the air. Yes, I know chat will not like that.
Well, moisture is, moisture's good. Moisture can be very good. All right. I'm sorry. I've got a couple windows open here, and I'm trying to. Guys, I think we go straight into the odds and ends here. Did you ever nominate a third odds and end? By the way,
Yes, but I cannot recall what it is. But I found a good one in the chat. We can discuss the incident with Trump's airplane. So.
Oh yeah. If you can just drop me a link for that in the private chat, I'll make sure I throw it in there, and we'll put that at number 3. Well, that won't be the only domestic story that's hitting the odds and ends, Ben, today. So let me share this first one out there. So we're getting a little bit of background on what happened with the old, drama that led to the Biden pulling out of the election and Kamala being the heir apparent. It didn't sound like Joe Biden. Pelosi questions dropout letter after Biden fingers her in ouster. In his first interview since he was clearly ousted from the 2024 race, President Biden specifically mentioned former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. There's a wandering watcher appearing from via cell phone, right, watcher?
Correct. Well, via cell phone, via satellite, via Ponderosa Ranch here in Montana.
Oh, very cool. You're back at the new home base.
I am. In fact, I'm in the kitchen cooking breakfast right now.
Very good, very good. And just you this time, right? No passel of kids with
no
you?
Children, but the wife came with me just because we figured since we brought the whole passel of kids, the mother-in-law offered to watch them overnight, and that we could get a one-night getaway.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Let's see. President Biden specifically mentioned House Speaker Nancy Pelosi telling CBS News Sunday morning that Democrats in the House and Senate thought he would drag down the entire party's chances for re-election. A number of my Democratic colleagues in the House and Senate thought I was going to hurt the race, and I was concerned if I stayed in the race, that would be a topic. You'd be interviewing me about why did Nancy Pelosi say something, and I thought it'd be a real distraction, said Biden. All right, let's see this. Let's see how long this video is. All right, yeah, let me play this video here.
Sorry, I wasn't available for this, gents. I was supposed to do this, and then I left the laptop.
Well, that's life. There's a song about that. All right, here we go. Here's the video of Biden talking about.
Look, the polls we had showed that it was a neck and neck race. Would have been down to the wire. But what happened was a number of my Democratic colleagues in the House and Senate thought that I was going to hurt them in the races. And I was concerned if I stayed in the race, that would be the topic. You'd be interviewing me about why did Nancy Pelosi say, why did so? And I thought it'd be a real distraction. Look.
A little off script there, I think, at that moment. No?
Yeah, I think very much so.
Yeah, I would say so. I think he wasn't supposed to reveal that part, so whoopsies.
Well, definitely admitting to the soft coup, possibly a thumb in the nose at the Obamas, who, according to Hirsch, initiated the soft coup. So, quite interesting that the party of democracy absolutely cannot stand democracy.
Yeah, funny thing about that, right? But this goes back. I mean, this is how Hillary came to came to power over Bernie, right? Basically there was a palace coup against Bernie Sanders back in that election. Now Hillary was the leader, but she wanted to avoid an acrimonious primary, and so they gave him a deal, and that's how we ended up with the Bernie Bros voting for Trump in 2016. Though I don't think there were very many of those Bernie Bros, honestly.
I mean, the difference there being they actually gave him something. This was simply a threat. We will destroy you, or you can go away.
Right. Very, very soon after Bernie stopped talking to billionaires and just the billionaires, because they made him a millionaire, essentially. All right. Here is Pelosi on this whole thing.
I didn't accept the letter as anything but a letter. I mean, there are some people who were unhappy with the letter. Let me say it. Some said that some people were unhappy with the letter. I'll put it in somebody else's mouth, because it was I don't even know, it didn't sound like Joe Biden to me. It really didn't. So, but
God, you can hear the manipulation in her voice. She's one of those old ladies that does it. God, that just didn't seem like Joe Biden to me, did it? After fucking literally holding his hand and forcing him to write it. God.
Let's see. And then here's another one. They've kind of nicely put all of the clips here in this one story. So, if you ever needed proof of the whole kind of coup, I mean, it's all pretty much right here. Let's see.
There have been reports that it was Nancy Pelosi who orchestrated a coordinated effort to squeeze President Biden to drop out. Please tell us what you told President Biden to persuade him to step aside.
Well, I've never shared any conversations with the president of the United States publicly. No.
It's said that he's furious at you. Is he?
Well, he knows that I love him very much.
I understand that you don't want to own this, but it is so well reported that you were the leader of a pressure campaign.
No, I wasn't a leader of any pressure party. Well, let me say things that I didn't do. I didn't call one person. I did not call one person. I could always say to him, I never called anybody.
Yeah, because she had her trusted agents call.
So that's her resisting the narrative shift, because you notice this is there's a little bit of a narrative shift since he accidentally said her name. They're trying to shift this thing to it's all Nancy Pelosi's fault, even though Hersh already let the cat out of the bag that it was the Obamas that pulled the trigger on this. So, and that's her going, oh, no, I wasn't in charge of shit.
Yeah, she may have been acting on behalf of, but clearly it was a coordinated effort, between both her and the Obamas. And I think it's interesting that they're trying now to put this in her lap, and nobody's reporting about any involvement of Barack Obama.
I just have to say that I've basically been in the woods for a week, and were it not you showing it to me, Scott, I would say it was a deep fake. There's no way I would assume that anybody would come after Nancy like that. That's weird.
Well, right. That was the interesting thing. I mean, the fact that Leslie Stahl was absolutely grilling her, I mean, that was actually what she said was actually more telling to me than what Nancy said.
Well, yeah, Obama has owned the media class since day one. Those are his friends. I've discussed this a couple of times. The ground game people in the Democratic Party aren't huge fans of Obama. They're much more, not necessarily specifically the Clintons, but the Clinton type. Okay.
Right.
But the media class absolutely loves the Obama wing of the party. So of course they're going to jump on the shift.
Oh yeah. I mean, here's the thing, right? I think most Democrats are basically closet, communists, but with the Obamas, that's where I feel like the reason why the money makers like them is because I think the Obamas are globalists and not necessarily communists. You know, they're authoritarian. They will use stakeholder capitalism to their gain. And I understand there is a good argument that stakeholder capitalism is a form of communism. I think it's more of an authoritarian economic, you know, oligarchy kind of system. But it's kind of like you're whistling past the graveyard, you know, when you say,
I was going to say
when there's really a difference between the two, because
I was going to say
it comes to control.
It's debating communist ends versus communist goals, right?
Well, right. I tend to think that stakeholder capitalism and the WEF types are more fascist than communist, but we all know how those are literally peas in a pod. You know, when you start getting down to brass tacks, it's all window dressing, if you will, right? Authoritarian economic systems. I mean, what more do you need, right?
I think she's probably factually accurate. She didn't call anybody, but her staffers did, and the people who actually run her office did. She's just like Joe Biden. She has no idea what goes on in her office.
Yeah, I agree with that too, Joe. I think that this is very much a kind of a whisper campaign kind of thing.
By the way, check your Twitter DMs. I'm just saying something.
Ooh, look at that.
Right? Anyway.
Yeah, I saw that.
I almost think you should have got the optic too, you know?
Yeah, I'm just going to do a straight tan on that, but anyway.
Yeah, just
never mind
that.
I thought it was the story you just shared in the private chat behind there. Apparently Trump's private plane's been diverted.
No, yeah, we're gonna cover that in a few minutes, but
that was an interesting piece of news that came out late last week. So we'll definitely talk about that one here in a second. I'm dropping that one in the odds and ends. So I've got it up. All right, guys. Anything more on this this behind the scenes coup? And let me ask you this: are we expecting for a lot more to start coming out on this, or do we think that they're going to be successful in kind of covering this one up?
I'll go first then, and I guess my answer is multifaceted.
Yeah,
I think they will be successful. I think they've gotten away with it. What I don't think you're seeing is that I think they will use the momentum that they're now building to knock some other deadwood out of the organization.
Yeah, I mean, Schumer might not want to rest on his laurels.
Yeah, I think too that this is one further piece that should convince you all, once again, that the president of the United States has no authority and is just a figurehead for a deep state, administrative state, whatever you want to call it, that actually makes all the decisions and runs all the things behind the scenes. The Donald Trump presidency should have shown it to you, and the Joe Biden presidency should absolutely prove it to you. Because Joe Biden himself, because he's too dumb to tell the truth. I mean, too dumb to not tell the truth. Keeps saying, I'm not supposed to say that, or they won't let me do this, because he's not in charge. Never has been.
Yeah, it's a good point.
The legacy of Wilson and FDR rolls on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We had that discussion last week. Started with Wilson and expanded exponentially under FDR.
Right. Yeah. I kind of liken it to Wilson had the idea, but it didn't get executed until FDR.
Wilson was like, "This is what I like to do, but there's that pesky Constitution." And FDR said, "We got mental institutions. We can go right around the Constitution. This is easy."
I mean, his stroke probably had a little bit to do with that.
Yeah.
Habeas corpus. Who needs habeas corpus when I can just tell people you're crazy? Anyway.
Well, the irony is people like us who talk about, the use of mental institutions for that kind of thing are now in the exact opposite end of the spectrum saying, we really should bring back state mental institutions, because that's essentially where all the homeless people have come from is, when they destroyed the entire, mental health institutional system.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Oh, watch it coming back.
Yeah, that back button is not to be touched.
Oh, I have found
No,
that
it is
out
not.
many a time.
Oh, on the phone, yeah. Never push the back button on the phone. Yeah.
All right, gents, let's jump into our next odds and ends. So this is I find this to be very oddly appealing story. Especially anybody who's got a historical focus on the Revolutionary War and the classic enmity between the United States and UK going back 200 years ago.
Probably we do something like that.
London police chief threatens to arrest people around the world for online speech. Clearly talking specifically about American people speaking out in America against the crimes against the British people that are going on just daily by their repressive,
authoritarian garbage leaders. Yeah,
This is why
politically
God
correct.
Bayonet.
Well, it's like, did you? I can't remember which one of you guys shared it, but it was they're the same picture. The little blonde surrounded by the black guys on the couch meme, and then
Elon shared that.
Yeah, I thought that was great. I was like, yes, that was awesome.
That came from Elon. It was pretty solid.
Let's see. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Not to completely pee on everybody's post hosties here, but when you listen to the full comments, it's pretty clear. This starts with Tommy Robinson because there's some evidence that when Tommy had to flee, he came here, and they're saying they're going to come get him and bring him back.
Yeah, they won't.
But
They won't.
It's certainly there's certainly some other people who jumped on that and said they will come after us, and folks, don't think this administration's above letting them do it.
Well, no, I'm actually going to go directly and entirely across from that. There is 0% chance you will ever be sent to Britain for any of this. Doesn't matter about this administration, doesn't matter any other administration. This is international law, and there's actually a third court that sits in between them. And anybody trying to get exported to Britain over speech issues is going to run into big old issues with that court saying, no, we're not going to let you have them. And I'm not saying the courts are the end-all, be-all, and you should put all your faith in that, but I am saying this is an idiot officer who didn't even know his own laws.
But international courts are a fallacy and are built upon voluntary cooperation. And if you can point me to where international law is codified, I'd be more than happy to look at it. But international law is a fallacy. It's there are norms.
There's no such thing as international.
Okay, well then I will say that there are norms that have prevented various different people from getting exported to us, including until he made that deal essentially. What's his knuckles that spent however long in Belmarsh? Yeah, Assange.
Now the flip side about this is I do think that I'm in the world of the J6 Gulag still exists. I don't think this administration is the least bit above allowing this. Ironically, one of the things the Brits didn't fully leave was the European Union Human Rights Court, and
that's what I was talking about. Yes, that's what I was talking about right there.
We're not a member of the European Union, so therefore...
No, but they are subject to the European Union Human Rights Court, which applies to even non-member states.
All right. So I think this is this story is interesting because it kind of it takes your classic left-wing rabble-rousing punk rock band from the late 70s and applies what they said to the current situation, which is ironic. This is the most fascist regime we've ever seen in the history of England, and it is by far led by the left wing of British society. According to a new report, the British punk rock band, talking about the Clash here, may have been prophetic in 1979 in a way never foreseen in its apocalyptic lyrics. Of course, referring to the lyrics of the song London Calling. There you can see on the screen. London calling to faraway towns, now that war is declared and the battle come down. London calling to the underworld, come out of the cupboard, all you boys and girls. I just hope that's what they are talking about in those lyrics. But anyway, you never know with those old school punk rocks, right? So this week, Metropolitan Police Commissioner Sir Mark Raleigh said that the police will not necessarily confine its arrests for speech crimes to London or even the United Kingdom, suggesting that Americans and other citizens could be extradited and brought to London for online postings. London, let's see. We will throw the full force of the law at people, and whether you're in this country committing crimes on the streets or committing crimes from further afield online, we will come after you. So
it's time to crush this little island.
Yeah, Well, the irony is that Elon Musk absolutely has responded, and it's a point that, like, now that I wish, Watcher, you could help me with this.
I know. I'm really sorry.
And do this stuff at the same time. Let's see. Raleigh was asked by a reporter about criticism by Elon Musk and others over the response of the government. Musk noted a video of someone allegedly arrested for offensive online comments with a question: "Is this Britain or the Soviet Union?" Pundits and politicians in the UK have called for an investigation of the arrest, for an investigation or the arrest of Musk for merely speaking publicly on the controversy. This has been the pattern by the Brits. Not just very recently, but going back several years. Remember, Tommy Robinson was getting he was thrown in prison over reporting on the grooming gangs trial, this is just on the face of it completely against the Western tradition.
I'm adding Britain to the list. It's a short list at the moment. It's just Britain and Canada of nations that need to be conquered and utterly subjugated for their own benefit.
Something wallet in, something nuclear weapon. Those who know.
No, I don't think that's the case. I think that it's a matter of elite capture, because I don't want to lump the British people in.
Yeah, with exactly right.
No, and that's what I'm saying is we take it over. We get rid of all the quote unquote aristocrats.
But Sniper said nuke them. And
I know. Yeah, I don't agree with that, but
I think this is a natural outgrowth of unchecked and unvetted immigration. This is the inevitable conflict that will happen anywhere that this happens. So it's especially with a culture that has tried to subjugate and conquer literally every other culture they've come into contact with. And I know some of our far left buddies would be like, "You mean the Western Europeans?" That's actually not true. Western Europeans spent their time freeing people from oppressive regimes and barbaric practices. But these folks, they're not compatible with a Western system. So it's crazy.
So kind of getting back to what this Raleigh guy responded into several other questions. Being a keyboard warrior does not make you safe from the law. You can be guilty of offensive, of incitement, of stirring up racial hatred. There are numerous terrorist offenses regarding the publishing of material. All those offenses are in fact there are in the UK. They're not here.
Yeah.
All of those offenses are in play. If people are provoking hatred and violence on the streets, and we will come after those individuals just as we will physically confront on the streets the thugs and yobs who are taking and causing the problems for communities, unless they are Muslims with machetes, and then they get the free pass.
Yeah, dear utter dipshit, I just want you to know, utter dipshit police officer that not only doesn't understand his own laws, but also doesn't understand laws of human nature, know that you have now made Britain the target for every troll with a beating heart on the internet, and that it will not stop.
Yeah.
Well, they've started to IP block the United States, so I suppose that makes
sense. Oh, yeah, and people have already got around that. It was hilarious. So, by the way, what I'm talking about is, in response to all this happening, the police opened up a text-to-inform system which the world flooded for about 48 hours to the point where they couldn't do anything, with the most hilarious memes of pretending to be, Indian men looking for Bob's and Vagine you could possibly imagine.
Oh no, my favorite one was somebody went help my Armenian, or my neighbor's an Armenian, and the operator answered, "What do you want me to do about that?" And they went, "He's an Armenian, help."
Well-armed Corgi for $9.99 says, "At what point do we demand the end to the special relationship? I, as an American, don't want my tax dollars and military intelligence and support being used to threaten Americans and oppress their own." Yeah, so this is
correct. More than the special relationship, they need to be out of the Five Eyes. Period.
No. Well, the easier way to handle that is for us to be out of the Five Eyes. Oh,
correct.
Well, that's the whole point of the Five Eyes, right?
The Five Eyes is an end around the United States Constitution.
Yeah,
correct.
It's an Anglican. It's a Anglosphere subsidy to the rest of the Anglosphere by the U.S. is all it is.
There's also one over on Rumble.
All right, and I wanted to get the member chat real quick.
Oh, never mind. You got a member chat. Go.
Yeah, go ahead. Philip Coggins, member for 23 months. That's almost 2 years. Thank you very much. Oswald Mosley wouldn't have gone that far in regards to this policy. Let's see. And there's another one here. Down to the Monarchy says Seal 77, member for 1 month. Thank you for joining
my man.
And then you said we got one over on Rumble. I'm going over there. Just make sure that's not the only one. It appears to be. All right. UCO Steve for $2 says Great Britain is now an Islamic country.
So listen, that's actually a great point, because when that police officer made his public statement and began with Assalamu alaikum, that was a statement of government policy, right? He didn't say shalom. He didn't say God be with you. He went straight to an actual Islamic phrase, or an Arabic phrase. That was a submission, right? That's where Elon sharing that tweet of the 5 Muslim guys standing around the cop came from.
Yeah.
If you're going to truly claim to be an objective observer, you would have said no religious greeting, right? That's the way to go.
Yeah, exactly right.
True.
But one of the arguments that they use is that the Islam is completely intertwined with their culture, and you can't extract one from the other.
Well, good. Exactly, none of this is about their culture. So
but see, that's the problem with political correctness and multiculturalism. It elevates cultures from other places to the same level as, say our culture, and that's just not the case. Our culture should have primacy in our country, just like British culture should have primacy in the British country, in Britain and the UK. Right. So I just wanted to read this. Hold on a second. This comment from potentially criminal Sean.
Hey, Sean.
You're having a good morning. My only recommendation to people is not to bring devices to the UK that were used to troll the UK. If Kamala wins, I can 100% see them arresting our citizens. That's actually a good point.
My only advice to American citizens is, why in the fuck would you ever visit that limey shithole? If you go there, you deserve what happens to you. No thanks. I've already been stabbed. I went to Chicago.
He's not wrong. On the other hand, Heathrow is a transfer, so take that in advisement. That you might want to make sure you don't use that transfer point and you use something else if you're going somewhere.
Hold on.
Go to Europe at all.
I was going to say, transfer to where, Sniper?
Elsewhere in the world.
No. One specific part of the world.
Just real quick, I just wanted to kind of bring us back to the topic at hand. These are just some of the things that we've been seeing people get hemmed up for. Decline of free speech in the United Kingdom has long been a concern for free speech advocates. A man was convicted of sending a tweet while drunk referring to dead soldiers. Another was arrested for an anti-police T-shirt. Another was arrested for calling the Irish boyfriend of his ex-girlfriend a leprechaun. That's pretty funny.
You know what's interesting?
Good one.
Yeah, hold on a second. Yet another was arrested for singing Kung Fu fighting. And a teenager was arrested for protesting outside a Scientology center with a sign that said they called the religion a cult. God forbid Joel, get us in trouble for calling his cattle cult a cult.
Well, listen, man. I am a little bit shocked here that they would produce so many examples of egregious rioting. There were so many shops broken into and so many things set ablaze, and yet, what are our arrests for? Singing songs, wearing T-shirts.
What's ironic, and I never want to promote a Poso tweet, but over the weekend, Poso actually put out a banger that said the right wing in Europe is so good, the right wing in the UK is so good that they could stage a protest, then have all of the Muslim counter protesters arrive and vanish before the news cameras and police show up. In other words, he's pointing out that the protests they're telling you are right-wing people are not actually right-wing people. What you're seeing is the Muslim response to folks who just came out and carried signs and held slogans. The response by the Islamic community in the United Kingdom was to start flipping cars, setting them on fire, and destroying things and stabbing people. So there weren't really there were some pretty serious right-wing protests, but there wasn't the rioting that you saw in response to it. And I pointed out over the weekend that if you look at one of the photos, there's some guys holding an English flag, but it has anarchy symbols all over it. And the guys who are setting things on fire in that video are wearing Guy Fawkes masks, which are associated with Antifa activity more than anything else. So,
which is unfortunate but true. But related to this in terms of surrender, and Joe, I think you were the one.
That's true, but okay.
Anyway, I think you were the one that put this up over the weekend, or at least I think it was through your feed is how I saw it. The church they bought here in New York and are converting into a mosque.
It's called a Mosque of Victory, right? They put up a mosque next to the World Trade Center. Now they're buying up large Catholic properties and turning them into mosques. In the Quran, it says that wherever you win a great victory, you erect a Mosque of Victory. Buying out one of the largest and oldest churches in America is a great victory. So they will erect a Mosque of Victory there. It's crazy. That's why the Rock of the Dome sits on top of the old temple.
Temple Mount,
right.
Yeah.
In New York, $250,000 for this amazing old building.
It makes me wonder who was in on the grift, that allowed that to happen.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, there's a wild hunch sighting over on Rumble.
Well, the Pope is a communist, so
100%. Yeah.
UCO Steve for 2 said threatened to send them back to Harry and send them back Harry and Meghan. Yeah, that's true. And then Hunt's Dirty Roofer for 5 said calling an Irishman a leprechaun is like calling a Marine. Calling a Marine, they're splitting logic. All right.
Apparently, I need to respond to Tash and Rumble. I'm sorry, but none of my content is coming back. If you have a good way for me to send you the thing, I can give it to you, but I'm not bringing the Rumble channel back that way.
All right. For those sniper fans out there, you'll never see it again.
If I reactivate the channel, there'll be something going forward, but the old stuff is staying gone.
Let's see. Here. Oh, this is another one too, Joe, that has shown up over the weekend. They also discussed the arrest of a woman who was praying to herself near an abortion clinic. English courts.
Yeah, I actually watched that video. They've declared that an exclusion zone, and only certain people are allowed in it, and she was in it.
And so,
if your government can at any point in time declare a specific piece of public space an exclusion zone, you are not free.
Yeah. Well, the irony is the video is being put right up against basically Muslims filling up an entire street, blocking it off, and then praying in the middle of the street. Clearly, what is good for the goose is not good for the gander in that situation. Oh, but they're not doing it outside a mosque. Well, but did you listen to what they're praying for, buddy? They're literally praying for you the overthrow of your country.
Indeed.
Let's see. That's about all I think we're gonna.
I will say that real quick. It's interesting because I've seen a lot of people over there, Muslims specifically, pull the mask off entirely and just flat out talk to British people like, yeah, no, we're going to outnumber you and then we're going to kill you.
Yeah, I can't remember their word for it, but it's the Reconquista. They have a specific name for it as well.
Well, it's not the Reconquista, it's the Conquista, right? I mean, because they never owned, there was no such thing as former Muslim, Britain. It's
There was
the Reconquista.
Spain, but not.
I was going to say the Reconquista was the original kind of reconquest of Spain by El Cid and all his
the
cheery
Reconquista
guys.
is an attempted recapture of former territories of Mexico.
Well, I'm saying the first time that they used that. Anyway,
yes,
point is,
El Cid retaking it from the Moors. Yes,
right. Yeah, right. So, I mean, it's the Reconquista would be then America coming back and taking over and basically fighting off the Muslim.
I actually have a replica of El Cid's armor up here on the shelf. So,
El Cid is an interesting guy.
Yeah,
one of the people, the famous people that I became more interested in after I played a video game about him. All right. Let's move on to our third odds and end here. Trump's plane diverted in Montana due to mechanical issue. I thought this was pretty interesting, and I definitely was kind of curious about this when I first heard about it. And it was happening in Montana right after we were all there, so I thought that was ironic too. Yeah, see, that's what I was talking about. Anyway, so former President Donald Trump's plane was forced on Friday to divert its landing to Billings, Montana, due to a mechanical issue. Airport officials confirmed to CBS. Trump was holding a rally in Bozeman, Montana, Friday night, but his private plane landed instead in Billings Friday afternoon. Let's see. Bozeman is about 150 miles west of Billings. The airport said Trump's plane landed without incident, and then Trump then departed for Bozeman on another private jet. The details of the mechanical issue were not confirmed. Trump's Bozeman rally was scheduled to begin at 8 p.m. local time or 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and his supporters lined up hours ahead scheduled start time to secure a spot. He did not take the stage until about 11:30 Eastern, so about an hour and a half late. This was Trump's first rally this week, while his running mate J.D. Vance and opponents Kamala Harris and Governor Tim Walz have been traversing key battleground states less than 1 month ago. Trump was shot during his rally. So the thing that real quick, let me just sum up my thoughts on this, and then I'll throw it to you, Joe. Normally, this is the kind of thing that you don't even hear about, right? But when you combine this with, the previous assassination attempt, it makes one ask questions. Joe?
That's exactly my point. I raised that exact issue. I was castigated by a lot of aircraft mechanics on Twitter because all of a sudden, everyone is an expert on aircraft maintenance and hydraulic systems. However, this plane would have been more thoroughly checked out than any other plane on the planet this last month, given the attempted assassination on him, right? And then for there to be something that caused this plane to land in emergency is something you cannot just discount. Sure, it could just be that it's an old airframe, 100%. But I would bet this old airframe got some pretty serious overhauls and upgrades after the assassination attempt, and we would have noticed something like that. The other piece to this is that when it landed, there's some interesting video of it landing and taxiing over to a clear area away from other aircraft and being sprayed down by aircraft firefighting trucks. That's not something you do for a hydraulic leak. Okay. So
True. Very true.
I'm thinking there may be more to the story, but I just find it interesting that it happened so close to the assassination attempt. So,
Well, and I will say on the unconspiratorial side, you can, as a mechanic, you can pass a 200-point inspection and then have something break a quarter mile later. It's entirely possible that he's been running the dog shit out of it. It's entirely possible something just wore out.
And like I said, if what had happened to him hadn't happened, this wouldn't be news, right? Because
I mean, if this had happened 2 months ago, write it off as mechanical failure. But it comes on the heels of an assassination attempt. You have to add that in. You cannot pretend.
Oh, you should ask the question, but you should also be willing to accept. Okay, sometimes things do just break. I mean, technically speaking, your car engine. You know, this is for chat. This is not for you. This is for chat. Technically speaking, when you buy a brand new car that is a man-made machine, the first time you turn the key on the engine, because it's a series of controlled explosions, it could fly apart. It's rare, but it can happen.
I don't see really anybody in chat that's saying anything differently than that, though. So, I mean, it's anyway.
Okay.
Go ahead, Watcher.
Oh, I was just going to say, as the only person here who I believe is actually licensed to work on aircraft, though I want to very clarify, not hydraulics, electronics. I can tell you that, like, as far as the electronics board goes, that what Sniper's saying is unfortunately true even for multi-billion-dollar military aircraft. But I will completely agree with Joe in that, look, man, if we even have a pilot that reports like, hey, this light stayed on a little bit too long after I depressed the button, we have to go through like long walkthroughs to figure out exactly what caused that. I can't imagine what they went through on this with the president after the presidential assassination attempt.
There's that, and you know what? On the a little bit more paranoid side, the other possibility is the pilots got some sort of warning that maybe 2 months ago they would have ignored because it probably isn't going to be a problem. And let's put this fucker down now.
That's actually a very good point, is that the pilots are probably also taking zero chances. I don't know. As far as like there's only one reason, obviously, why you would hose a plane down upon landing, and that has to do with either fire. Or fear of fire, because there's no observer close enough to be able to tell whether a fire was sparked.
Yeah, here's say that again, Joe. I didn't hear what you said.
Aviation gas burns with no flame. It's not visible.
Oh,
so.
Yeah.
That's true. Avgas and racing fuel both burn clear.
Yeah,
because racing fuel is avgas.
So the thing that I just want to say is that I contend that I have no inside knowledge of what happened with his airplane. But anytime anything happens now in and around President Trump, i.e. the Iranian hacking of his, the campaign stuff, you have to kind of, after the attempted assassination of the man, you have to essentially look at everything completely different than you would have before that. Whether
if I may, I'd like
connected
to make
or
one
not.
Final point on this.
Yeah.
We're sure it's okay. Here's the deal. If I'm the United States government and I don't want anyone to think we're trying to kill Donald Trump, I send over extra technicians to inspect that plane every time it leaves to make darn sure it's not going to have a problem in the next 2 hours. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah.
Facts. Well, actually, Joe, there is one more thing I would like you to speak to before we go. And it just kind of plays off what Scott was ending us with, which is, is it not true that every single presidential assassination attempt has spawned a whole new series of protocols from the Secret Service in order to try and prevent the next one? And restrictions continuously get more and more severe. I think the last one they decided that, not the last one, but like a while ago, they decided presidents could never drive themselves anywhere, even after they retire, and various other things. Is that correct?
Joe, did you hear that?
No.
That was a question for you from Watcher. Watcher, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was reading something.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, no, I was just going to say, is it not true that basically every single failed presidential assassination attempt has sparked severe backlash from the Secret Service and them instituting new doctrines, basically like within a few weeks, in order to try and keep presidents safe? And it's become increasingly more restrictive on how former presidents are allowed to move around.
I would imagine, but I don't know that they created anything new. I imagine they got out the playbook they were supposed to be using all along, and dusted it off, which is probably more likely.
Well, I was kind of curious, just as a thought, just a speculation for the future. They stopped allowing presidents to drive their own cars. I think it may be likely in the not so distant future that they start saying, hey, if a former president owns a plane, it's the Secret Service who pilots it and does all the maintenance.
But they already have that requirement that they get to inspect it, and that they get to have Air Force technicians look it over. And they get to run dogs through it and all that kind of stuff. But the other piece of that is if I am that former president, why would I trust the Biden administration to provide me with a working aircraft?
Right.
And I don't mean that from an assassination standpoint. I mean that from a, oh, shucks, he couldn't make it to his rally standpoint, which is probably a factor in this, because we have a mutual friend who was at that rally, Braxton McCoy, who I will once again say, Braxton, you could make it to Bozeman for a Trump rally, but you couldn't make it to Big Fork for a CFC rally.
Nice.
Shame on you. But he said there were 20,000 people waiting, and the thing holds about 8,000. So that also,
to be fair,
play, right?
Yeah, to be fair, his team did a good job of still getting them. I mean, he's always late going on stage on these things, but his team did a real good job to still get him there before everybody left.
Yeah. Gentlemen, anything else on this topic? I think we have covered this one, and it's just shy of an hour before we get to our shameless commercial plug segment for tactical-wisdom.com. Joe, what's going on with tactical-wisdom.com this week?
Well, we just put on an article recapping the course that we did, which was pretty good. If there was ever a time to take a class about how to maybe protect your neighborhood or home or small compound from the ravaging hordes, now is it. And we have another community security class coming up in North Carolina on the 23rd. And then right after that, we've got one in Strang, Oklahoma. So there's a recap of that course there and why it matters and what we went over. So kind of a neat little recap there. I'm going to do a couple more about the whole trip and some of the things that we did and some of the conversations that were had, like Joe Fox's outstanding talk on Friday about the areas that will get you and what you need to be prepared for. And some of the other things, like our friend Brent did a fantastic first aid hands-on demonstration, why you need to be attending that kind of stuff and all of that. So stay tuned. More to come.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
I just want to give a quick plug for if you're passing through Montana, hit up and need a place to stay. Hit up Veteran Camp Ponderosa. The people here are wonderful and the place is beautiful.
Yeah, and
absolutely. You know what? That's a great point. Maybe we should do a quick plug for that. Camp Ponderosa is just one physical piece to the Northwest Montana Veterans Food Pantry. And Al and Linda Erickson have been running that for about 35 years, taking care of fellow veterans in Northwest Montana, out of Kalispell, taking care of their food needs, some job training needs, and trying to get some of the homeless guys out of the woods and into homes. And they have just been doing a great job at it. They are really putting their whole heart and soul into running this. Their daughters both work with the organization and help them get things done. We had a great time with them. So check out veteransfoodpantry.org, and I'll drop the link in both chats here in just a minute if you want to learn about what they're doing and maybe how to support them. And maybe one of the best ways is just come up there and stay at Camp Ponderosa for a day or two.
Yes, especially
I
once
hear
we
there'll be
get
some new staff there soon.
I was going to say, once we get Joe installed as the head potentate of day-to-day operations there,
No. That will be Mrs. Tactical Wisdom. She will
Correct.
be I'm merely present. I've been told I have to write.
He's going to be renovating the jail cells.
There's no such thing there.
But let me say on behalf of them is the place from experience is a great place to go and spend a little time living in the moment and stop thinking about every goddamn thing that's been crushing on your brain for the last 2 years.
It is good for that, especially when the mountain lions start coming through after dark.
Yeah.
Facts.
Or when you get to count how many deer that was that you just drove by.
Oh yeah, and you know what? I discounted Sniper one day when he said, "I just saw herd elk over there." I was like, "No, you didn't. You didn't see no elk. We would have seen them." And we came back, and the elk were indeed there. So
there they were. Yeah, and Joe just has dropped the link there in the chat. So if you're interested, and if you know, it doesn't help do a little map recon now. If you're not going to be able to get there until next summer. When we hold our next event there, come hell or high water, we will be there next summer supporting the amazing people at Camp Ponderosa because that was a great facility. Funny is
they really taught me a valuable lesson about perspective, right? And you got most of you were there and saw it. I was less than thrilled at the way that the Shield / CFC event went numbers wise, right? It was a great event. I just hoped for more, and I wanted this to be perfect and that to be perfect. And then Al and Linda came over to me with tears in their eyes and told Brandon and I that it was the best event they've ever had there. And it fulfilled their vision and this is what they want. So sometimes we have to step back and realize our perspective isn't the one that matters. It's the folks who are actually trying to benefit that matters. And they loved it. Well, so
if you remember, Joe, I know you were having, I can't remember which morning it was, and maybe it was Saturday. Anyway, you were going through a little bit of kind of ups and downs you were hoping for more, and we had talked about that. And I was very happy with where it was because it was more than what we did in Louisville last year. So I was, and then, the Shield had really kind of rolled out the red carpet for everybody who came out. So we did have some great support, but I know you wanted it to do better, but then literally almost as if, God heard your distress, right? He sent those two angels to you to express the,
what was great is we bent over backwards to make it for them too. We gave them flowers and cake for their birthday, and it really was a pretty fantastic thing. It was awesome.
Well, yeah, as long as we're here, Joe, I have to say it. You remember you came to me when I was setting up the show and we're like, Watcher, you are too much of a perfectionist. You stress about all this stuff way too much. And I go, that's true. Somebody once told me perfectionism looks nice in his shiny shoes, but he's a bit of an asshole and nobody invites him to their pool parties.
I think Washer just called me an asshole, but okay. No.
No.
Also, on that note, Watcher, for the record, I totally blamed you for Ron's lack of a bottle of Devil's Brigade, so you have to deal with Ron.
Ooh, that's fair. And what's the best part is that I can fix that.
Right.
I
went to get him another bottle after I left Camp Ponderosa. But you're on Indian land pretty much from the minute you leave Camp Ponderosa all the way to the.
And so it's just whatever they brought in and not the local stuff.
You can't buy hard liquor on the Indian reservation.
Oh, is it a dry reservation? Oh, okay.
All of them.
Gotcha.
So there was literally no more Devil's Brigade. So I owe him a bottle. I'll get him one.
No,
The Derby pie was totally worth it.
Well,
it was.
I was just going to say, let's be fair. It was all of us because I needed it for the Derby pie.
Well, hey, I think we learned a valuable lesson when you make your own Derby pie. It's not that you can't do it, right? But it's always better the next day, right? Like,
Yes.
as much as I love that fresh Derby pie, the one that I had the next morning for breakfast was like, I needed more of that.
Scott, you need to be very careful. You're very close to saying that the Derby pie I made might have rivaled the one your mom made, and I don't want to deal with the consequences of what happens when you get home.
My mom did. First of all, my mom doesn't make Derby pie, right? In Louisville, people just buy them because there's a
okay.
I don't
There's
know.
a
good
Your
bakeries.
mom made one the next day when we had dinner at your house.
I wasn't there for it though, so I don't know.
You sure were. The
Oof.
dinner that we had at your mom's house last year. She said she made that pie. But anyway.
Oh, okay. She might have. I mean, the pies I remember are the ones that came that we got. We got like 4 pies for the at the restaurant, and those actually came from Kern's, the actual bakery who makes those pies. And anyway, the point is that once the pie had set up overnight, right, it was way better than it was the next day. But a lot of love went into that and many other pies. So very good event. Very good people were there. Everybody was pushing.
Hush.
Next time, Watcher, I want you off of cooking duty, though. I want you to focus on keeping the technical standards high for all the events.
And I'm going to assign someone to stand next to you with a watch.
Well, the irony was that like how many times did we say, "Hey, where's Watcher? We need to get." Oh, he went off to the store to go buy.
Oh yeah, that did happen. Yeah.
All right.
All right. Well, I am now going to have to
pie after you left, brother. Sorry.
I am now going to have to deal with fighting kids apparently, so I'm going to hop out. You guys have fun.
All right, John. We'll see you.
See you later.
Care.
Yeah, Hunch. Our bad, bro. Maybe you should have stuck around one more day.
Yeah, I really am sorry, Hunch.
Yeah, I mean it was good. Hunch, you should have stuck around. You left too soon, but I know you had a hell of a drive to do as well. So, I feel you, brother. You were missed. You were missed.
If it makes you feel any better, bud, I do apparently have like the recipe that McCullough Senior thinks is the one to hand people, and I'll send that to you.
Yeah, it's a good that recipe is good. My mom has been making that pie for years, so I mean it's pretty damn good. All right. Let's jump into our first of the main 2 topics today, and this is the Ukrainian offensive. Now, this has been going on for about a week, and this is really our first show in about a week, so it makes sense that we really haven't been talking about this that much. And I'll be honest with you, the fact that this has lasted as long as it has, is a testament to both the soft underbelly that exists in every country, and Ukraine successfully found that soft underbelly in the Kursk region of Russia. And they were able to put some of their better equipped, more highly trained forces against it. Now, remember the spring offensive last year that went on that basically puttered out after it kicked off in the fall?
That never was.
Yeah. Right. If you remember, that was the whole point of that was to, punch through the heavy Russian defenses. Hold on a second. Real quick, Mirko6 for $10 over on Rumble says, gents, missed you last week getting married in Wyoming in 2 weeks, but hoping this is a yearly event so I can make it next year. Heard great things on next. Yeah, absolutely. And we're hoping to have dates for next year's event here in the next, let's call it conservatively the next month, maybe sooner. And that will allow us to kind of basically put together a week-long thing that would, put trainings for those who are interested in doing training, kind of more kind of boots on the ground type stuff, and then a little more fun, festive than bourbon-filled weekend event that's less about tromping around in the woods and more about fellowship and coming together and meeting your favorite CFC and other personalities. So
I do submit that if possible, we should reschedule next year's event to be 1 week later than this one was, so that we can overlap with the annual Huckleberry Festival. Just saying.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. I wouldn't want to take any the thunder away from the Huckleberry Festival. I mean, that sounds pretty awesome.
In Swan Lake. Yeah.
Well, it might be harder to get pizzas at that joint, the gas station.
Oh,
So
Connells.
what I was telling Mrs. Tactical was about this. She goes, "You want me to have gas station pizza?" I'm like, "No. You don't understand. This was good pizza."
It's real pizza. It's just everything's in a gas station up here. The Ace Hardwares are in gas stations. The grocery stores are in gas stations. All of it's in gas stations.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a gas station barbecue in Texas, right? It's like the best barbecue in Texas that you get from some shitty little gas station.
The best part
And the crazy
giant gas station named Buc-ee's.
well, the crazy part for me is how few people there are in each town and how large those towns are. You're talking about places that are like, oh yeah, Swan Lake is 15 miles long as a town, and it's got like 120 people in it.
Yeah, it's 15 miles long, but it extends no more than 1 block in any direction.
Exactly.
Deep and wide. All right. So, guys, we're going old school. We're going to do a little bit of a map.
Are you going to mispronounce everything on purpose?
I'm not even going to try to pronounce it. Essentially, we've got a offensive in the Kursk region. If you are a military history fan, this is literally the exact same area that the Kursk offensive or if you're a German military fan, Operation Citadel occurred. It was in 1943, and that was where essentially the invulnerability of the German offensive SS offensive operations basically ran into the Soviets' brick wall. I think it was Zhukov on the other side and then you had Mansfield, and I can't remember who was Army Group Center. Maybe that was Mansfield. Anyway, I just off the top of my head, all of this history in my head. So this is the area of the now I want to go back real quick for a second, because this is a kind of a blow up of the map, so you can see. Now, if you remember, we were talking last month about the offensives by the Russians in and around Kharkiv. That's down here where these red areas are, and that gives you a sense of scale of what's happening right now and where it's happening. And so it's basically around the corner and to the north from Kharkiv. And so what the Ukrainians did is nothing amazing or magical. What they did was they found a fairly undefended region of their border with Russia, and they attacked it. They've probably been kind of probing the border for since the beginning of the war to try to find these kind of soft underbelly spots, and they've probably identified a number of them up and down the areas where offensive operations are not occurring is probably a better bet. The offensive that didn't really happen last year, Joe, was an offensive right into the teeth of probably the most effective defenses that the Russians have anywhere along this border between them and Ukraine. So they threw an offensive into the toughest defenses. That's like attacking the Maginot Line head on, And what did the Germans do? They famously went around the defensive fortifications, right?
Yes.
Which is exactly what Ukraine has done here. They have basically found where it's not defended as well, and they've gone for it. So nothing magical here. This is just smart tactics. Now, here's the problem, Joe, as I would articulate this, right? You got a small army with a limited number of high-value troops. By all accounts, they've thrown in Western-equipped, Western-trained units into this. So this is some of their premier offensive, offensive units. Russia still has a way bigger military, and this is very annoying to Putin. But ultimately, he's going to get pissed. And he's going to send a bunch of folks here, and Ukraine is in best case scenario. They're just going to have to withdraw, do a tactical withdrawal, and pull all these kind of Western trained forces out.
Looking at the map, I see one strategic problem, and it's the 4 different salients going on, right? Once you've penetrated that deeply, you need one. Because what ends up happening is they start cutting them off piecemeal, right? And destroying the units at the head of them, right?
Right.
Bring them all into one, go in one direction. But let me put on the MP hat here for a minute. I wouldn't penetrate any deeper unless I had very, very strong rear area security units. Like a battalion or brigade even of military police or whatever they call them there, like they call them field police, to secure those lines of communication. If you can't feed, arm, and house the troops you have at the sharp end of the spear, they're not going to last very long. So if I'm Russia, I'm going to let them come in about another 50 kilometers and then cut the tail off, and those guys are trapped. You have to have a very, very robust rear area security operation in order to make this work.
Yeah, and I think Peter is right on the money here. It is a real offensive. It's just not a sustainable offensive.
It's not a raid because it's gone on too long to have been a raid. A raid at most would be 3 days.
Right. And generally much smaller, more limited objectives, right? This is kind of like a flash offensive, and that I do believe that they're going to kind of think of it the way you would a raid, which is where you go in, you do some effect, and then you pull out. Your long-term strategy is not to seize and hold ground, right? I think what you've heard in chess, right? You've heard the terms like create many dilemmas on the board for your opponent, right? Hold on a second before I talk about that. Potentially criminal.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful, Sean.
But you know what's funny is that I've heard in real military briefings, like names get utterly just bulldozered into oblivion. And this is the reason why we had a town on our route in Iraq called K-Town, right? And because nobody knew how to pronounce Khalidia on any kind of consensus basis. So you always had like these nicknames. And the sad thing is that in Afghanistan, it was the same way. You started thinking of objectives, right? And so you started naming areas like objective this. And then after we've owned it for a long time, people continued to call something by like some sort of a code name designation versus the actual name of the thing. So yeah, fair. It's a fair cop there, Sean. I appreciate it. But then again, you're just still a lawyer, so all right. What was I going to say? Okay. Anyway, so ultimately though, they're creating dilemmas on the other side of the map from where Ukraine is, being just pounded by the Russians. And so the idea is draw forces away from, the offensive operations further south, near Donetsk region and all that kind of stuff, in order to kind of get a breather down there. The sad thing is that I think Russia's got enough forces kind of in the pipeline that they were going to ship, that they're able to divert a lot of those over to this area. We've seen some of the TikTok warriors, the Chechens are in action. Joe, I don't know if you've seen, I guess several of these guys have been captured now, There's one picture of a guy who's got some sort of $10,000 high fashion outfit on that he was captured wearing, and so now the Ukrainians are showing pictures illegally, of course, by the Geneva Convention, taking pictures of their POWs and sharing them in public. But it's one of those kind of things. It's kind of hard to figure out who you're really more upset about. The Ukrainians.
What's interesting is on the raid tip is that there are some Russians living in the area reporting that they're being told by the Ukrainians to get ready to vote in a referendum on being absorbed into the Ukraine. So they may be planning on staying. I just don't know that it's actually going to work out that way for them. So.
Right. For me, I just don't think they're not going to take enough space to have the tactical depth or the strategic depth they would need to kind of create rear area operations within this salient. And then the other part of that is that I think Russia is going to do everything that they're basically going to push pause on all their other offensive operations, I think, in the near future, just to make sure that they, stamp this out. And what will end up happening is Ukraine will see that tidal wave coming, and they will then exit the area. They'll pull all their forces out before that hits.
What has gone on, though, meanwhile, as Ukraine made these advances, they did so at the sacrifice of some of their frontline areas, and Russia has made some steady gains in the Donbass. Not as significant as these, but they have made gains. So they're literally just trading space for space, right?
100%. Let's see. Let me go on to the next. I thought this was interesting. This is a more pro-Ukrainian standpoint, but I thought this is generally, I didn't see a whole lot off on this thread, so I thought this would kind of give some overview on it. So this is Mick Ryan. He's a former, I think he's Australian general officer, and he works for the Lowry Institute at CSIS. The Ukrainian operation in Kursk is almost 1 week into execution as the Russians slowly but surely redeploy forces to seal off the breach in their border, an attempt to push Ukrainians back into Ukraine. It is worth pondering the options Ukrainians might have once they reach their limit of exploitation. So even the pro-Ukrainian pundits are saying, listen, this is great, but at the same time, don't get too big for your britches. You only have so much ass to put into something like this, and you start running out of Schlitz very quickly. He says, like all military operations, this will have been planned as a multi-phase operation, including prelude, shaping operations. These would have included intelligence collection, force preparation, deception, operational security, logistics,
I don't believe
and other
that for
aspects.
a minute. Nothing the Ukrainians have done has given me any indication that they do anything other than wing it every time.
Well, the sad thing, Joe, is the sad thing is that I think when it comes to, there may be all these great plans put in, but then you get the YOLO brigade as the one that's thrown into the breach, and they're like, wait a second, we're supposed to go this way. Well, this way looks better. Let's go this way, right? And then it's just off to the races, right? And
yeah.
So because I truly believe that there are some former NATO officers, i.e. contractors, i.e. volunteers, whatever you want to call them, that are working in Ukrainian uniforms right now who are just pulling their hair out.
Some might say like a Canadian 3-star general, for example.
Man, this is another example of when I am sad that I don't have my full laptop, because I just want to know if Scooter Squad is a part of YOLO Gang.
Well, here's my question, Watcher, is how quickly can you get a YOLO Brigade T-shirt ready to go?
Hold on, my graphic designer is standing next to me. Let me speak to her real quick.
All right. Let's see. Other phases have been planned, included break-in, the breakthrough battles, ongoing exploitation, consolidation phases. These phases will have the range of forces and support elements applied to each. The Ukrainians first phase, the break-in and breakthrough, are complete. They are currently in an exploitation phase. Many operations are normally include a limit of exploitation governed by terrain, logistics, and the reaction of the enemy, as well as
advance, LOA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As well as the objectives. Yeah, that's more squad battle, right? Like small unit stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's essentially the same idea. You stop at this point because you just can't afford for your element to go any further. What might be the Ukrainian strategic options once they reach the limit of exploitation? I think the probably will have three options. Each will have minor branch plans as well as opportunities.
Can I make a comment?
Yep.
All of this is pure and absolute speculation. And what you're seeing across NAFO bro Twitter is this cope and all of these, well, maybes, right? Maybe they're doing this and maybe they're doing that. The truth is that given their current strategic and tactical situation on the ground, this may have been a bridge too far. I'm just putting that out there.
Well, the interesting thing is he kind of implies all that in there. He's like, hey, this is all great, but here's the problem, right? When you be careful what you wish for, you just may get it, right?
Pinochet helicopter tours comes in from the top rope with a quote from Tom Clancy's Red Storm Rising. Well done, sir.
Well done.
Anyway, Derna has a $5 one, by the way.
Yeah, I wanted to get that one before I got back on my silver box here. Derna for $5 says, Scott, when has the Ukraine ever given up ground willingly in this war? They let 20,000 troops get surrounded in Mariupol. Everything is a PR campaign. I'll be honest with you. I think that they got what they got it way worse than they ever expected in Mariupol. And let's be honest, they got surrounded and cut off before they could affect anything.
And let's be honest too. Mariupol, in all honesty, the truth of the matter is they should have accepted the Russian offer of safe conduct and given up on Mariupol. It would have been the humane thing to do. It would have let them save face, but they couldn't let the Russians be seen as the bigger man in this. So they let the people die to a man.
Yeah, I was just going to say it would have saved at least 2 generations of Ukrainian men.
Yeah.
Vicky Radford, kind of throwing back to the to one of our odds and ends real quick. I think this is an interesting point to address before we move on with our.
It really is, because I have a point on that. Go ahead.
What do we white Anglo-Saxons have to do to claim asylum in the U.S.? Because the way things are going, ... Yeah. So there are some. Here's let me give you my thing, and then I'll throw it to you, Joe, because I know you've talked about this a lot. My thought is that some are meant to fight and some should probably seek safe ground, right? And right now there is a program that if you can just come across the southern border of the United States, you can request asylum and you basically you'll be able to live for free in America. You just don't tell them you're a British. They may not. They might tell them you're from like Botswana or something like that.
No, just lose your papers. You're a white Argentinian.
However, right. Let me just say, do not tell them that you are white from South Africa, because we're trying to bring in a white man from South Africa just for a vacation, and they won't let us. So they say they're over the quota for that particular demographic, that particular country. For that
well, he should visit the wonderful city of Tijuana.
I told him he needs to go to Juarez, take a little walk, and all will be good. But we're working with a U.S. representative to try and fix that. But they are at this point denying the visa.
So, really, they're denying his tourist visa?
Yeah, because too many have are already scheduled for that month. So.
Yeah. Anyway, that's crazy. All right. So I wanted. This is where this kind of starts getting interesting because he starts applying a little military reality to
put the Fed postnators one up at the bottom. You don't have to read it; just put it at the bottom.
No, that's okay. I got something to say while you put Fed postnators thing up there. Ladies, now seeking auditions for or potential anchor bait to get Canine Reaper in the country. Just saying.
Don't tell them that. Oh my God. Anyway.
I have no idea what he thinks. I haven't seen. I have honestly,
Actually,
I have not
he's
blocked
beating
him.
the Iran war drums so hard. But I was going to tell him you can't have any Iran until you finish your Ukraine. But
yeah,
he is very much beating the Iran war drums.
wise words.
Listen, if your combat experience consists entirely of being inside of Bagram, war's not so bad. So there's not a war you're not willing to fight because you just sit back at Bagram. But anyone who's been beyond that is not exactly begging for war with Iran. So
now, Vicky, there are illegals and then there are illegals, right? So I mean,
you wouldn't be illegal, Vicky. You would be undocumented.
That's right. That's right.
As long as we're here, somebody was asking on the internet. They were trying to ask it in a derogatory way. Hey, what's the difference between these illegals that are coming over and the expats that go and stay in another country? And the answer essentially comes down to: are you respecting the country's culture that you live in, and do you leave without a trace?
That's an expat, yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess, Vicky, you start with going to the U.S. consulate and asking them what the process is.
Here it would be interesting to see if somebody went to a U.S. consulate in Britain and said, "Hey, listen, my neighborhood is overrun by Muslims. I'm threatened daily. They target me because of my racial identity and my
government
religious.
is now threatening me.
My government is threatening to take away my ability for freedom of speech to speak out against the threats that I face on a daily basis. I want to apply for political asylum in the United States as somebody with family and descendants in the United States. I would like to apply. I would be very interested to see what happens there. And
someone needs to do that and film it
and get it on video, and then get them saying no to you on video. That would be the key thing. Now, that being said, also be prepared for some base motherfucker to be there at the consulate that day and says, "Sure, no problem. Come on in. You got everything you need," because once you come in, you can't come back out. Right.
Because that might happen.
Like I said, there are some, people in the system that are fairly based, but they tend to be on the DL. So, if they call your bluff, don't have to
enjoy your new life. I will give you some star-spangled underwear if you tell us that happened because we told you so.
Exactly right. All right. Option one for the Ukrainians is to consolidate on the terrain that they have seized so far and defend it until some form of negotiation takes place. This is the highest risk option because Ukrainian dispositions feature multiple small salients that would be easy to cut off and destroyed even by a semi-competent Russian commander.
Sounds like what we just said. Yeah,
exactly right. I mean, this map literally looks like you took this is it right here. This 4 fingers going into Russia, and each one of those fingers could get chopped off, leaving just the knuckles pushing into the border there. The high probability of losing a large number of forces.
There's a Djibouti joke there somewhere, but I'm gonna let it go.
I'm not going there, Joe. That's what you're here for. The high probability of losing a large number of forces in this scenario makes it strategically and politically liability. Ukraine could lose battalions and brigades as well as artillery, EW, and air defense. It could not afford to lose this. By the way, if they lose it, they also lose Western equipped units as well, which are let's be honest, that would be a hell of a propaganda coup for the Russians if they could.
Speaking of, from a historic standpoint, invading Russian territory with German tanks was probably a terrible idea because there is a national phobia of Germans in Russia. So you're actually making your own rear area security problem worse by using those German Leopard tanks on that territory. So
yeah. All right. Let's see. This option, should it go bad, would also squander the very positive strategic messaging that's been generated by the Ukrainian surprise attack into Russia. By the way, if I were a Ukrainian, I would unbelievably happy over this news. I mean, this is a a wonderful propaganda victory for Zelensky and his side. The problem is that it's only great if it lasts, right? Even if you pull back and you basically declare victory and go home and preserve the balance of your forces there, it would still be a long-term, probably not a good result for the Ukrainians. The objective for this option would be to continue to posing a significant risk to Russian sovereignty and critical assets and constitute a draw for Russian forces from Ukraine. It might also provide Ukraine some leverage as forced into negotiations in the near future. By the way, we have some updates from Putin himself, and we will play that video here in a bit, that negotiations are now completely off the table. It is questionable whether the downside risk of this option are worth the return, however. Right. And so this is where you start to see an honest NATO kind of trained guy, when presented with these wonderful Ukrainian gains, are able to have to reel them back to reality for what they can actually do. And I appreciate that. I don't necessarily always agree with the assessments of these guys, but even they realize that the Ukrainians are getting out in front of their skis on this one. Option 2, the second option is for the Ukrainians to undertake a partial withdrawal from the territory it sees back to ground that's more defensible. This is a medium risk option with a decreased risk of option 1. This will rely on Ukrainians conducting a withdrawal into pre-designated terrain that it's easier to defend, requires a smaller quantity of troops to defend, and is able to be supported by fires, logistics, and other functions more effectively. This option will also ensure more troops could be relocated after the operation to other activities as they defend the Donbass or subsequent cross-border attacks into Russia where there's an opportunity to do so. Option 2 allows Ukraine to maximize political and strategic benefits of the strategic shock while reducing the risk of losing that combat force. It would still require large numbers of combat and support troops to defend the seized territory, which is ultimately the weak piece for Ukraine, Joe. We all know that the Ukrainian manpower shortage is real. Specifically on the kind of the meat grinder fronts down in the Donbass.
Yeah, and I really think that option 2 is probably their best option. Fall back to more defensible position. You retain what you have while the engineers build you good field fortifications, then you fall back into them.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think if I were a betting man, I think that's what because you always want to try to have a little bit of that Russia, right? You could say, hey, listen, we occupy parts of your country. That's a hell of a feather in the cap of the Ukrainians, and it's something that they could look at into the future. This would force that kind of dilemma creation for Putin, because he couldn't just forget it. He'd have to kind of try to keep taking it back. The objective for this option would be to continue posing a risk to Russian sovereignty, comprise ongoing draw of Russian forces. The humiliation of Putin and his military is also important. The risks of this opportunity might be worth the potential gains. And then so the third option would be for Ukraine to fully withdraw back to the international border with Russia and Ukraine. This would permit Ukraine to maximize the political and strategic benefits of the operation into Russia while preserving a large body of experienced combat troops that might be employed in subsequent offensive operations later in this year and next year. By choosing this option, Ukraine would be messaging to the Russians, we can invade your country and hurt your country if we choose, but we have no wish to occupy our neighbors. While Ukrainian invasion maybe allow Putin to reinforce his point to Russians about the threat from NATO, he also appears weak because he was not able to punish those who conducted the operation in Kursk. The objective for this option would be to humiliate Putin, preserve Ukrainian combat power, and sending a strategic message to Ukraine supporters that they can go on the offensive and do so in a manner which does pose an existential risk to ground forces conducting the operation. Let's see. The range of factors will have an influence on which option the Ukrainian government chooses. These factors include how the Russians change their forces, in Ukraine, including the Donbass, the Russian response in Kursk, domestic and international political considerations, sustainability of the operations. So we're getting at the end here. I want to one of the things I want to bring to bear on this, before we kind of get off, I want to show that, these successes are real. So we are seeing footage and things like that come out of this area. This is the kind of thing that when you see this as a Russian, this is very disheartening. This is a UAV footage of a group of 50 Russian soldiers being taken prisoner. So of note, this is the first time in 70 years that Russia has been invaded. Now, we did have the Russian Legion went in, conducted little raids and stuff, but for the most part, they got spanked and they were gone within 24 hours. This, by all accounts, these are absolutely Ukrainian regular formations that are doing this, not some sort of ad hoc Russian volunteer neo-Nazi groups.
And let's keep in mind too that there are soldiers and there are soldiers.
Yeah.
These look like a Motor T company or something, right?
Right. Yeah.
Truck drivers, whatever, hauling supplies.
Reservists.
Yeah, absolutely.
People who are not what you'd call your best and your brightest. Now, let's see. So Putin has responded in his own way, and I'm going to play this out of order. I guess this will be the one we have to do. Sorry, I thought I had the video of Putin separately, but I think it might be in this. Is it in here? No, it's not in here. Anyway, so Russia begins heavy retaliation on Ukrainian capital as Zelensky breaks silence on Kursk invasion. Now, the sixth day into the Kursk invasion, Ukrainian President Zelensky has explained the following on Sunday. Today, I received several reports from Commander-in-Chief regarding the front lines and our action to push the war into aggressors' territory. Ukraine is proving that it can indeed restore justice and ensure the necessary pressure on the aggression. So on the same day, the Russian Foreign Ministry has vowed a tough response from the Russian army will not be long in the coming. But that response appears to have already begun overnight into Sunday as the capital of Kiev has come under heavy missile attack. Missiles did not reach the center of the city, but the suburbs were impacted. The Associated Press has described that at least 4 ballistic missiles slammed the capital region, along with 57 Shahed drones, citing Ukraine's Air Force, which said its air defenses intercepted 53 drones. Zelensky has alleged that as part of the air assault, Russia used a North Korean ballistic missile. So what, right? Let's see. According to preliminary information, the Russians used a North Korean missile in this attack, yet another deliberate terrorist strike against Ukraine. I don't know if that's, who cares where the ballistic missile's from that lands into your city? They hit you, what's
anyway. Funny is they talk about Russia using North Korean missiles as they launch American, British, and French rockets all over the place, right?
Right.
Who cares? That's kind of how war is done.
Well, right. Watcher, what's your kind of take on this? Or
yeah, exactly what Joe said. It becomes incredibly hypocritical of us. And, well, I guess I've just ceased being entertained by echoes of the Cold War anymore, where each side accuses each other of forming an axis of evil to oppose the other. When, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, you can only stand on each side wearing the red and the blue uniforms and getting ready to square off for so long before it's just not entertaining anymore. Obviously, our little coalition has decided they're going to support Ukraine, and anyways.
Let's see. I'm trying to find the quote from Putin. Okay, yeah. This is it. Putin has said negotiations with Kiev are no longer possible. What negotiations can we even talk about when people are attacking civilians, trying to create threats in nuclear facilities? So also we had Zaporizhia caught on fire.
I mean,
in the last couple of days.
That's super rich, though. I mean, look, we were critical early on in the war of people saying like, "Oh, these shellings around these nuclear facilities are going to cause the reactors to become unstable." Like, we kind of knew that wasn't true, but we also knew, hey, you're playing a little fast and loose here with some of the international rules that you agreed to, right? But it is rather rich for him to come back and say the same after they've been bombing cities for 2 years.
Right. Yeah, I mean, they've been bombing Moscow with drones and intentionally. They actually had a suicide bomber walk into I guess it was a suicide bomber. She planted the bomb and left in a cafe in Moscow, and you're complaining about other people, right?
About an author.
And the other one is they've traded accusations over the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant, like at least once a month since this whole thing began. And I guess the info on the ground is that someone was burning tires behind it to stage that photo. By the way, although it looks dramatic on the video, those cooling towers can burn to the ground. They are nowhere near the reactor. That's just where water sits. Right?
Yeah. That's cooling towers are exactly that. They're cooling towers to create.
They do look dramatic in a photo, though, don't they?
Well, and not to rehash history, but like, there was, some indirect fire happening near those facilities. But as we mentioned at the time, even if the reactor building took a direct hit from basically the largest artillery that they were shelling out, it's not going to do much because the way the reactor building is designed is to contain an explosion inwardly.
And
it's
really
significantly greater.
Respond to fire, right? Fire doesn't really.
Yep, not really a huge danger. Everything just shuts down. Oh no.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's usually there's a lot more kind of national
fire can't
wailing.
melt a containment vessel, right? It deals with much higher heat in general. So
there's a lot of wailing and gnashing of teeth when it comes to nuclear stuff, and usually it has a lot more to do with ignorance than anything else. But anyway, I just thought this was interesting. We're starting to see the response by Russia against Ukraine, and I get the feeling that it's not going to stop here. There's kind of like a big but. I'm kind of like I'm waiting to kind of follow this up with. But in addition, Zelensky and his guys are getting squirrely in other ways. We've got this one, Joe. I thought you would enjoy this. Ukraine says it hit and destroyed Russian offshore gas platform in the Black Sea. Ukraine says its military has targeted and destroyed an offshore gas platform in the Black Sea, which had allegedly been converted to be a forward operating base by Moscow's forces. Ukrainians
against what?
Against Ukraine's navy. I mean, they clearly right here they say they got a navy. So
wait, all 12 kayaks? Oh man.
Well, no, they're robotic kayaks. Remember, they took their kayaks, they turned them into jet skis, and now what is it? Starlink.
I'll grant you it probably had Russian troops on it for protection, right? But I don't think it was a sea base for operations, right? And there are literally no sea operations going on other than these silly Ukrainian kayak drones. So
they've got this. Let's see. Let me mute that here. This is Ukrainian drones hit the target. This is some thermal imagery you got here. Very dramatic. Boom goes the platform. Dozens of people may have been killed in the attack, but it's unconfirmed whether they were military civilian platform operators. Ukrainian government spokesperson announced on social media the occupiers used this location for GPS spoofing to make civilian navigation dangerous. We cannot allow this to happen.
There's no civilian navigation in the region, just for the record.
Russian state media said the bulk of these attacks in various locations were thwarted. The Russian military has this is a statement from the Russian military. The Russian military has intercepted an attempted landing on Ukrainian Marines near Kherson and destroyed a group of sea drones headed for Crimea, according to the defense ministry in Moscow. Overnight, a group of unmanned surface vessels was detected and on approach to the Black Sea Fleet base at Sevastopol. Combat camera footage released by the Russian defense ministry on Friday showed them being destroyed in the water. The on-duty fire systems destroyed 7 unmanned boats in the Black Sea. So there's their Navy, Joe. They were all destroyed.
Yeah.
Let's see.
The other one is a more interesting. The attempted landing by the Ukrainian Marines.
Yeah. So meanwhile,
Well, I'll tell you, before we move on, I'll tell you one more interesting thing. The Ukrainian Navy's been taking keys from the American armed forces, right? I want to know how many admirals they had for all 12 kayaks. Anyhow.
7.
Let's see here. The Russian. Meanwhile, the group of Ukrainian commandos tried to land at the tip of the Kinberg Peninsula, overlooking the mouth of the Dnieper early on Friday, according to the Russian Defense Ministry. 4 boats approached the Kinberg split, attempting to land a sabotage and reconnaissance group. Under covering fire from 2 of the boats, about a dozen troops stormed the beach. So some old school amphibious operations going on.
So first of all, it was the Kinberg Spit, which is a piece of land that jets out into the water. But anyway, this is interesting because that region, the Kherson region, is the only area in which partisan activities have been effective by the Ukrainians, and it's by the Ukrainian Marines. So this was probably a detachment going to relieve some of the guys. If you remember, those Ukrainian Marines have been wreaking havoc at Kherson Airport on the Russian Air Force's FOB there. So,
well, and if I'm not mistaken, their main base is just up the road, right, Joe?
Their original main base is just up the road. Yes, other side of the river, but yes.
Sorry, just checking, make sure we're caught up on super chats. We are. All right. Let's move on, shall we? So this kind of came out of all this, and I thought this was just pretty damn interesting, just on the face of it. So I thought I would share it. This is footage from Russians hanging out on the back of what looks like a BTR or something like this, or some sort of a APC. So the video is kind of dark. You've got basically Russians here on the back. You got the going down the road here. So this is at night. They see something. It's a drone. I don't need no shotgun. First shot. You see that, Joe? Let's watch that again.
And my man is also smoking a cigarette while he did it.
I know.
It was confirmed Jump McGee sighting.
This EWO doesn't work. We did it.
Is that an AK or is that was that an RPK? I couldn't tell. It's more believable than an RPK.
He's shooting with AK-74.
Yeah.
And then he gets that and it goes off, and then that guy's got an AK.
And my man never dropped his dart, kept smoking. Wow.
So
we got a Briat and a Suka in that video all at the same time. So good stuff.
Well, guys, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. Let's just be honest.
I was just going to say,
sure he's not a Turkish Olympic pistol shooter, but
I was going to ask, have we introduced him to our friend Goulard? But
yeah.
All right. Let's see. Anyway, as much as I love the shotgun videos, I love a lucky shot from an AK.
There's a 5.45, so that's like a little 22 round. And you hit that bad boy.
And theoretically, it's actually slightly smaller than
Smaller.
22. It's 21 something, I think. All right. So, I mean, just when you thought that all of this was like, oh no, the Russians are done for, thank you, looking forward to praising my NAFO friends. Oh, you guys were all right the whole time. Meanwhile, on the other side of Ukraine, yeah, a lot of red arrows going in the wrong direction for Ukraine. So basically, this. If you remember New York, I love that one because I can actually pronounce New York, even though your Kiva is right down the road, and Nila Pivka is right here, and let's see what else do we have around. Horlivka is over here. So this is basically the last of the defensive lines, and there's a better. I have another link that shows a better kind of area where the defensive line was. Now, this is not like all stuff that has just fallen, right? This is, and this is the updated one. The one I'm getting ready to show you is a little older because you can see the discrepancies because New York hasn't even fallen yet in that one. So here's New York in this one. This is the old defensive line. This is the old Ukrainian defensive line that's been ever since the entire 2016 defensive line east of New York has been completely annihilated. And this, like I said, this isn't even the most up-to-date version of this map. If you see these water bodies here in the center, if we go back,
that's all been encircled.
Here it is right here, and most of it's now under threat or it has been encircled. So this is all brand new territory that's been seized in this critical area. Now, Joe, one of the reasons why I think that they've had a lot of success in this area that's been a lot of tough fighting is because a lot of these high quality units for the Ukrainian army have been pulled out for adventures like what's happening up in Kursk right now,
100%.
rather than being thrown into the fight down here.
Well, what's happening is that Ukraine keeps hoping to score a big PR victory, like Derna keeps pointing out. They're looking for that quick hit in the Instagram war rather than actually attempting to hold what they have and win the ground war. They feel like the war of public opinion is more important because that's where funding comes from. And I'm going to be honest, and it's not a very popular opinion, but and that's how Ukraine works, right? Where the money comes from is more opportunity for me to put a little more money in my pocket before this thing ends in the way we all know it was going to end. So that's why they take their best troops and put them on movie star ops, right? As opposed to actual ops that mean something. For example, at the beginning of that offensive that happened last year, the spring offensive in the fall, if they had fired all of those rockets directly at the fortifications along Crimea at the front line, they might have staged a breakthrough. Instead, they launched them all at a bridge and caused minor damage that really had no impact on the outcome, which led to them hitting a brick wall and not advancing.
And this is not the only place the Russians are advancing. Reports coming in, the Russian forces have advanced into Toretsk itself for the first time and have taken up positions in the first two high-rise buildings. Ukrainian groupings in and around the Pivnishta mines are now at a serious risk of encirclement. That's the mine complex right here. So, I mean, there are a lot of dilemmas that the Ukrainians face. And let's be honest, Joe, having to kind of deal with the success, like I said, be careful with what you wish for. You just might get it. This very well could have been a flash offensive. We'll go in there, we'll smash some stuff up, and then we'll pull out, before we lose any significant combat power. There may be political pressure by Zelensky or somebody to go for that option 2 idea where you basically kind of seize and hold ground inside Russia there semi-permanently, right? Which then continues to, it will draw Russians up there, but then that means that it will draw more Ukrainians. And so you're back in the position of having to continue to reinforce this operation at the detriment to the areas like this that are right now under threat.
Well, let's remember the military aspects of terrain. And in an urban area, those high-rise buildings are the key terrain. From them, they could probably control that long road that runs past the mine and into the heart of town. Yeah. They can control the entire length of that from one high-rise building.
Right. You don't actually have to hold the ground. You just have to kind of be able to control it through fire. Right. Exactly right.
If they put a KPV up there or something similar, they've got that covered pretty solid. So.
Yeah, because exfilling any number of forces on anything other than dismounted through this kind of forested area that's, right here to the immediate west of the mine area, that would be a absolute nightmare.
Yeah.
Anyway, just something.
Keep in mind, too, that a mine complex is actually a nightmare as well. Because underground tunnels, interconnecting, it's not cool.
All right, guys, anything more you want to talk about with Ukraine? Because we just have enough time to squeeze in a few stories here on Israel and Iran. I'll be honest. I told somebody, so talking about, let's just go ahead and move to Iran and Israel. I told somebody the other day that the most dangerous thing that Iran could do is not attack Israel, but it's just to assemble a nuclear device and then do an underground test detonation inside their own country. I think if they did that, that would absolutely change the entire paradigm of this conflict, and force both the West and Israel to really rethink how they want to go forward with this.
But it might also end Iran as they know it.
Well, but that's just it, right? If Iran does the underground test, that's that kind of point of pride that even people who aren't happy with the regime could say, yeah, this is a good thing that my country has this weapon, right? And it also, you can't say, listen, this is not an offensive act against any other nation. This is us telling you that if you attack us, we will respond potentially with nuclear weapons, right? And then you go, and you're back to the whole MAD argument, mutually assured destruction.
Yeah, but the nuclear non-proliferation treaty would then require some sort of a response from the Western nations,
like we did with North Korea.
Different animal.
I know, but my point is that essentially the precedent for us getting punked on the non-proliferation treaty is already there, right? It becomes a foregone conclusion once the technology has proliferated.
Man, I can't believe I'm about to say this out loud and in public, but on this particular topic, Kim Jong-un is a more rational actor,
right?
Than the Ayatollah.
He's always been a more rational actor. I've made the argument. There was about a 6-month period of time where I said, no, he is totally irrational, right? But I had a very smart guy who I disagree with a lot of things about. And if you want to look at him, we did a North Korea special, like on the second episode of the Council on Future Conflict back in, this would have been January of 22, I think it was.
You might be confused as to whether or not it was actually a North Korea episode, because the guy spent a lot of time complaining about Donald Trump.
I know, but that's and the problem is when that guy talks about North Korea, he's spot on because that's his area. The other problem is he also happened to be a big lefty, and God love him, he's one of those lefties you can sit down and have a beer with. But in that forum, he was not on his A game. But he has, I am absolutely convinced that North Korea is a rational actor in the world stage. And the reason why is because all of the stuff that they do is to preserve their regime, and they've done an excellent job at it for the last 70 years. Essentially, it's kind of hard to argue with success. Iran, on reality,
that country should have collapsed a long time ago, and the fact that it hasn't is actually a good sign for them. But
But
I burst that
Iran, on
guy's
the other
bubble
hand,
because his only objection to Trump solving the North Korea problem was that, but it was Donald Trump.
it's Trump. Right. Exactly.
He's
right.
not a professional, but did he do it?
Oh, yeah,
Well,
exactly right.
yeah, but
But anyway, so Iran has yet to prove themselves as a rational actor. And let's be honest, as much as I love Israel, as far as them being a democratic, kind of republic within the Middle East and whatnot, and I don't know how rational they would be if Iran exploded a nuke, a test nuke. You know what I mean, Joe? I think that Israel would absolutely lose their shit if that happened.
Israel would conduct an all-out strike across the breadth and length of Iran. They were not allowed to be crossed.
Which then Iran could say, "Hey, listen, the reason that why we're now blowing up Tel Aviv is because Israel attacked us, right?"
And then if they blow up Tel Aviv, we have an obligation.
Right, exactly right. So it becomes that kind of. Scott's flying out to kiss the Wailing Wall after the show. No, that's Watcher. Watcher's the one who really loves Israel.
Really?
No, I'm joking. If you really loved Israel, I wouldn't say that.
No. I thought you meant like comparatively, and I was like, oh man, that's a bad sign for Israel. Oh shit.
I mean, I've got no love or hate for Israel more so than any other country. I mean, I think they're justified in what a lot of the things that they're doing. But then, hey,
Yeah, I think maybe a lot of people. Confuse me trying to apply consistent principles to all nations that I believe all nations should be able to do to Israel as me being supportive of Israel. No, I just think that in the modern environment.
So.
Well, yeah, that's true. But in the modern environment, it would be very irresponsible of anybody to say, "Hey, you know what? You're not allowed to police the actions of the neighbor next to you, even if they are launching direct terrorist attacks against you." I think that's cutting off your nose to spite your face.
Watch out in making nose puns when it comes to talking about Israel. All right. This is a Times of Israel article. In reversal, Israel said to now believe Iran plans to attack in next few days. And let me just say, this tends to be the consensus that I've seen both from U.S. sources, Israeli sources, and other international sources. And so, Joe, you even said that you think it'll be in the next 24 hours, right? But what's the significance of that?
There's a religious holiday in Israel that falls today. So it would be significant of Iran to attack before sundown today. After sundown tonight in Israel. And what might lead us that way is the massive attack by Hezbollah yesterday. If you remember, the last time Iran attacked, it began with a large rocket attack by Hezbollah that Israel intercepted almost all of. But then by the time the actual attack arrived the long way around via the Red Sea and coming up through Israel that way, they were a little low and a little slow on the reload for the Iron Dome system and the Patriot systems, and a lot of the missiles got through. Last night, Iron Dome did not activate once. They allowed those rockets to hit. They did use some Patriots to try and shoot them down, but they didn't expend any Iron Dome ordnance. That leads me to believe Israel knows the real attack is coming pretty darn quick, and they want to save the rockets for that.
Absolutely. I think it's coming. So let's see what this article says. IDF says civilian guidelines unchanged as reports say Tehran will possibly strike by Thursday. U.S. announces it's sending guided missile submarine expediting strike group's arrival. Let's see. The reports marked a reversal in the previous prevailing assumption, which had been that the Islamic Republic, under heavy international pressure, had given up its initial intention to launch an immediate
They will
large-scale
never give up
attack.
their intention here. They have face to save.
Well,
It's not
and let's be honest, the only countries that can potentially strong arm this are literally China and Russia, who have basically been saying, "Hey, do you need more military gear for this? We'll fly it in for you." Which I believe, I haven't heard reports on Chinese arms exports, but I know Russian has increased recent exports. And the fact that Russia, in the middle of the war, is giving you arms, it tells you something. Let's see. Instead, Iran has been expected to leave the response to Lebanon's Hezbollah terror group, whose top military commander was killed. By the way, I said, listen, they may be allowing Hezbollah to lead the way, but the fact that Hezbollah was only talking about their guy led me to believe that any coordination that occurred, the Hamas leader's death was still on the Iranian response, which we haven't seen yet. Let's see. Israel blames Shakur for being behind many attacks. Blah, blah, blah. Let's see. We already covered that. Axios news site citing two unnamed sources familiar with the details reported Sunday that Israel's current assessment is that Iran would launch an attack on the country within days, possibly before renewed ceasefire hostage deal talks are held on Thursday. The report said that the issue was divisive within Iran. President Musk, the new president, wants to avoid a harsh response, while the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps wants to launch a larger attack than it did on April 13th, 14th. I mean, come on, Joe. That attack,
about to find out exactly how little authority he actually has in Iran.
Well, right. And yeah, when the IRGC wants to go hard, then that's what's going to end up happening. The irony is
personal troops of the Ayatollah. They're going to get whatever they want.
That attack in April was not that strong of an attack. I mean, they only got hits on a couple of desert outfield, kind of airfields in the middle of nowhere. And I don't remember. I think there was one hit that got some concussions. I can't remember exactly what. I
think one actually came down on the street in Tel Aviv, but it didn't hit anything.
Right. Let's see. One of the sources cited in the report said the situation was still fluid due to disagreements. The report said that the defense minister, Galan, had spoken on Sunday with U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin and told him that the military's preparations suggest Iran was getting ready for a large-scale attack.
And Secretary Austin said, well, how can we help the Iranians?
Right.
No.
And so I'm gonna pivot now because we got another story that basically goes to that end, like how the U.S. is going to help.
Oh, I did, and also I heard it's funny because this got shared around last night that there was a certain aircraft carrier steaming at ramming speed to go support not the ally you might think.
Right.
I hadn't heard about this one. And I'm sure some of the people in the chat would love to know what you're talking about, Watcher.
Well, it was in your group chat. You were in the chat.
Yeah, it was in the group chat.
I don't have time to read them all.
Oh, okay. Well,
about the Abraham Lincoln at flank speed on its way to Israel, but he said it's at ramming speed to ram Israel.
Yeah.
All right. U.S. deploys submarine in the Middle East. Israel anticipates direct attack from Iran. So this is Lloyd Austin is piling on here. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin has ordered the guided missile submarine USS Georgia to the Middle East and told the USS Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier to speed up its voyage to ramming speed to the region. The Israeli security officials anticipate immediate direct retaliation. I'll be honest with you. I think the fact that they are announcing the redeployment of strategic asset to the region tells me that the Pentagon takes very seriously that this.
You can't speed up a carrier strike group because while the carrier can do almost double the speed of everything else around it, that means it goes out that way undefended. It can only go as fast as the slowest ship, which is a frigate, can probably do 20, 25 knots max.
This might surprise some of you.
43, but they're not going to do that.
This might surprise some of you, but a carrier is kind of not super survivable without its strike
Not
group.
at all. Not at all.
Let's see. Speaking on the condition of anonymity to discuss sensitive security matters, an Israeli official citing conversations with security officials said Monday that the country's updated assessment indicate. All right, sounds like that's the same report as earlier. I love this bait and switch where they talk about the U.S. giving aid at the top, and then it's like it's not mentioned.
Well, so I do want to bring something up here. So a guided missile submarine, which is yet another one of our exquisite assets, though probably one that I agree with more than any because it's a little harder to lose a submarine than most other assets like it. It only has a certain number of vertical launch tubes. And if I'm not mistaken, all of our guided missile submarines also carry nukes at all times. Not exclusively nukes, but at least some of those very limited vertical launch cells are taken up by nukes, correct? So
I don't know that that's the case anymore. It
Yeah,
used to
okay.
be, but I don't think so now.
All right, so
So-
they may not all be armed, but in the long run, we're deploying the Georgia, the 18 silos, I think, maybe a little more than that, depending on what they're packing in there. Some of the smaller missiles, but
I wonder if this is an Ohio class. I wonder. Let's see. So it's okay. This is a Virginia class. So this is an attack sub with vertical tubes that shoot like Tomahawk. They're designed to shoot Tomahawk missiles. So this is this is a strategic asset, but this is not necessarily a nuclear asset.
Yeah. So then we're essentially talking about like, okay, maybe 20, 24 Tomahawks. That's the extent of our real high tier support here.
Wait a second. Here it says it's a Ohio class. Hold on a second. Where?
So
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
All the answers are in the Rumble chat. Be Prepared has it there. It carries 154 TLAMs.
Yeah.
In 22 groups of 7. So,
Okay. So
this is actually a decent amount of strike back.
7 tubes, right?
That is a decent amount of strike back. Okay, I'm a little impressed. Then we are maybe stepping up to support our ally finally.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, all right. Now that I've gotten to this part of the Wikipedia page, I know a lot more about it. Okay. So the Ohio class boats were originally designed to carry Trident missiles. These are the big nuke missiles, right? You know that. And this is exactly what you were thinking about originally, Watcher. But 4 of the Ohio class boats were turned into what's called SSGNs, which are essentially it's reconfigured to have a shit ton of tactical Tomahawks, right?
Okay.
And these are all conventionally armed Tomahawks. They also have provisions for larger special operations contingents as well.
Oh, these are the ones that got outfitted to launch SEALs if they needed to. Okay.
Right. So this would have been the mid-2000s.
Attached to the side of it and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, okay. All right. So these are okay. Yeah, this is a decent boat to actually have in the area. I hope we use it appropriately.
Well, I guarantee you, if the Georgia's going anywhere near the coast of Israel, there's at least a SEAL platoon on board, if not a full team, right? So, well, you probably can't get a full team on there, but you can get a platoon.
I was going to say, well, if you did get a whole team on there, you'd also have to bring the publicists, and that just gets out of hand.
2 to a bunk. It's the Navy way.
I mean, you know, it's very clever naming your stealthy warships after a state.
It's the true stealth, right? The Ohio class. Ohio doesn't exist. Exactly.
All right. Here's another interesting story that's come out of this whole Iranian mess, because you're starting to see like where the rest of the world is coming down on this, and that tells you kind of where Israel is in the pecking order, right? Jordan ready to shoot down at any Iranian missile breaching its airspace. All right. So this is the Hashemite kingdom of Jordan, not Jewish. By the way, Jordan is originally part of Palestine, you know, as it existed in the British Mandate, right? And so a
Who
huge
then later
number of
decided it
Palestinians.
wanted no part of the Palestinians. But
Right. Well, a huge number of Palestinians live inside Georgia, and basically Georgia is in the process of turning
Jordan,
all those.
not Georgia.
Yeah. Thank you. You got too much USS Georgia still on my mind. Georgia.
Opposite sides of
Anyway.
Turkey. So, anyhow,
Georgia on my mind. I was trying to make a pun there, Joe, but
it was really
Anyway.
good. It was really
I
good.
know. It's amid the waiting game. Jordan has reportedly informed Israel and Arab countries that it would not allow warring parties to use its airspace, and it's ready to confront any Iranian projectile that breaches its skies. This is very interesting because I'm sure Israel is the one that kind of worked this out with them.
Are they though? With what?
Let's
The Hawks?
Well, maybe the American Patriot battery that's in their country.
Okay,
actually, they have a pretty legit Air Force.
Well, I get it, but like an Air Force isn't going to track down missiles. Is kind of what I'm saying. That kind of seems to be what they're saying is that they'll shoot down missiles, and so
Well, you got to remember, for every ballistic missile, there's probably 10 Shahed drones, right? And the Shahed drones
that's
are
fair.
absolutely the kind of thing that they could affect.
During the last attack, the Jordanian Air Force did take to flight and engage targets all night long.
Yeah.
So
Hunch Dirty
were
Roofer
highly effective. So
Hunch Dirty Roofer for $5 says an Ohio class can't carry enough hair gel and roids.
not for more than 3 days at a time. I think that's probably fair.
That's true. Jordanian government recently told Sky News Arabia that no country's military will be allowed to use Jordanian airspace under any circumstances. Jordanian foreign minister has emphasized that the military remains committed to defending its airspace if it is violated and will prevent Jordan from being turned into a battlefield. Interestingly, some of the latest sentiments were prompted by a regional report claiming that Jordan has an agreement allowing Israel to use its airspace to repel Iranian aggression.
They don't need no Jordan way that Israel pulled off the airstrike into Natanz all those years ago without crossing Jordan. So
well, in this case, they don't need Israel to be able to use Jordanian airspace when they have their American allies that can do it for them.
I'm sure that when they sent out this communique, a diplomatic note went to Israel and said, "But bro, wink, wink." So
yeah, well, let me just be the first to say that may the King of Jordan have many true and faithful sons.
Actually, he is a solid and legit dude.
That's what I'm saying.
Legitimately based.
There's somebody I know, but he's actually a pretty solid guy, and he knows that Israel helps him hold back the extremism that sometimes impacts his country. And let's not forget, this man donned a flight suit and personally flew a mission to strike back against ISIS when they burned a Jordanian pilot alive. So.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. I mean, so like I said, when I say legitimately based, I mean like he is legit. And he was also a commando back in the day as well, if I remember correctly.
He still trains with his guys, and there's actually a lot of videos out there of it. And Queen Rania is not exactly rough to look at either. So,
oh no. Well, it's not limited to just the King of Jordan. Oh no. The Saudi royal family has been pretty based in their assessment of Iran recently as well. This is MBS. Saudi Arabia compares Islamic Republic of Iran with Nazi Germany and is correct. So let's listen to this.
You've been rivals for centuries. At its heart, what is this rift about? Is it a battle for Islam?
Iran is not a rival to Saudi Arabia. Its army is not among the top 5 armies in the Muslim world. The Saudi economy is larger than the Iranian economy. Iran is far from being equal to Saudi Arabia.
But I've seen that you called the Ayatollah Khamenei the new Hitler of the Middle East.
Absolutely.
Why?
Because he wants to expand. He wants to create his own project in the Middle East, very much like Hitler, who wanted to expand at the time. Many countries around the world and in Europe did not realize how dangerous Hitler was until what happened happened. I don't want to see the same events happening in the Middle East.
Does Saudi Arabia need nuclear weapons to counter Iran?
Saudi Arabia does not want to acquire any nuclear bomb. But without a doubt, if Iran developed a nuclear bomb, we will follow suit as soon as possible.
That's what
Boy,
you want. People who have hated each other for generations armed with nuclear weapons. This is a good plan.
you know,
We will go back to our friends in Pakistan and take the weapons that we bought for them back in the day.
You know, well, I don't know. I mean, maybe let's be very honest. You know where the Saudis would go for a nuke, don't you? It's not us. It'd be China.
No, Watcher. They already have a nuke.
The Saudis?
The Saudis have a nuke, and it's sitting in vaults in Pakistan. That's how Pakistan got their nuke, was through Saudi money.
I thought it was one of ours, though. So, anyways, but interestingly,
I'm sure. I don't know about that, because
rivals
ultimately that was against. They were balancing against India. So I don't know the exact origin of the technical specs of the Pakistani nuke, but ultimately it was Saudi money that funded it.
Gotcha. Well, I will say that it's very interesting watching a video that's essentially boils down to, listen, I know that I am essentially a medieval kingship and rule my people like serfs, but that guy's Hitler.
Right.
That's actually a pretty good point, right?
All right. Guys, I mean, all of this death and destruction in the world, Kamala Harris on the rise. Donald Trump doesn't have a leg to stand on, is what I hear. This is going to be my final point for the show. Just something to kind of, I wouldn't say that we are huge supporters of Donald Trump. I would say that Donald Trump is a necessary force in order to have our country be successful. And to that end, I thought I would share this. Evidently, Donald Trump is back active on X, which is, I think that's good news.
The mean tweets have returned.
Yes. I mean, he broke the internet on a daily basis back when he was on Twitter in the day. And that was the evil version of Twitter. Now we have X, which is way better. I can only imagine what's going to happen. So this is
let's not get carried away. It's better. It's better. Way better.
It's way better than the old Twitter. It's just not perfect, right? It still has a long ways to go.
They just suspended Watcher, for God's sake.
He came back within 24 hours. I mean,
this is true.
He needed a break, Joe. Watcher was doing too much. All right. Anyway, this is a video shared on Real Donald Trump's thing. It's 2 minutes. So let's see what we got here.
Trump's left the building. We can now project the winner of the presidential race. Donald Trump wins the presidency. What started off as unlikely, impossible, is now reality.
I will fight for you with every breath in my body, and I will never, ever let you down.
We have a president who actually fulfilled the promises he made during the campaign, securing the border to foreign policy.
He now has a record as president that's pretty damn impressive. Breaking news out of Palm Beach,
the FBI has executed an unprecedented search warrant at President Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate. The former president has both sides of the political aisle up in arms.
It is a dangerous and unstable moment in American history.
The Justice Department has just indicted former President Donald Trump.
For 7 years, they hated him, they targeted him, they hunted him.
This is the epitome of the abuse of the prosecutorial power to preempt political decisions.
I never thought anything like this could happen in America. The only crime that I have committed is to fearlessly defend our nation from those who seek to destroy it. The more that a broken system tells you that you're wrong, the more certain you should be that you must keep pushing ahead. They want to take away my freedom because I will never let them take away your freedom. They want to silence me because I will never let them silence you. They're not coming after me. They're coming after you. And I just happen to be standing in their way, and I will never be moving. On November 5th, 2024, justice will be done. We will take back our country, and we will make America great again. America will always rise to every challenge and overcome every danger.
Donald Trump seems to always get stronger when challenged. These types of things, I think, give him strength.
When I'm reelected, I will totally obliterate the deep state. As long as we have pride in our beliefs, courage in our convictions, and faith in our God, then we will not fail.
We have the best commercials. People always tell me, Donald, you have the best commercials.
They always say, your commercial team, they're the best.
They're the best. This is a legitimately good piece of propaganda, if you ask me. I don't know what you guys think. It's it's funny.
Well, I will say that I've been properly chastised in the chat by a certain mythical author, Blaine Pardoe, and yes, I get it. We can definitely lose a sub. Okay. Particularly when you're writing it.
Yeah, absolutely. If people turn their back on Trump, they're inviting New America into existence. But if I remember correctly in the book, we got Trump, and then you invaded the White House and killed him. So
yeah. Well, candy stripe haired leftists, anyway.
It's called marketing. All right.
It is
when it's
ironic,
political,
right?
it's not marketing; it's propaganda.
In
Go
the
ahead.
book, they assassinated Trump, so
true.
He was shot, wounded, and survived for a little bit. Interesting.
This podcast we flagged with Kamala. Joke's on you. It's not monetized on YouTube.
What's hilarious is I have been getting Kamala ads nonstop everywhere I go. Drives me insane.
That's one nice thing about being on a South Korean IP is I don't see any of the political ads that you guys see. I was just kind of shocked being listening to YouTube in the States while I was there for the week. I got every Montana state political ad that has probably ever come out. And then I also did get a couple Kamala, and I think I got some Trump ads, but I can't remember. But mostly Montana politics. Anyway, yes, no more Kamala videos. Don't maybe take down any more names. Yeah, 100%. All right, guys, round the horn. Joe, thoughts going into this week?
I would watch for Iran, Israel to plunge us all deep into the depths of world crisis. It's definitely going to happen. So I would watch for that.
Yeah, 100%. I think Iran's going to happen probably by the time we have our show on Wednesday. Watcher?
Yeah, find your people. Start training with them. Get to know them. Develop trust and relationships and skills. That's it.
Yes.
Yeah, I think finding them is the most important piece of that. If you can train, if you can deepen relationships, all that kind of stuff, then that's all to the good. But ultimately, finding them, seeing them in person, know where they are, because let's be honest, all positions are temporary, right? If you don't have secondary, tertiary, and other essentially a pace plan for places that you will be in an emergency, then you're not doing it right. And let's be honest, as much as we love our homes, the homes aren't our primary position because they just aren't viable from a security standpoint.
They're not exactly designed with defensible positions in mind for the most part, unless your name's Ron Mueller.
Well, unless your name is Ron Mueller.
That's right.
And he has an emergency out. He's got a little bird helipad there dangling over the side of the mountain. So
I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't have a MI8, some sort of a former Afghan army MI8 with a camo net back in the back.
I don't know what you're talking about. He installed that helipad specifically for that cinematic moment where the government comes back and tells him, "We need you for one last mission."
yeah, right.
Speaking of one last mission, I guess my final thing would be if the Paris Olympics needed some saving, and who came in at the last minute, other than Maverick himself, Tom Cruise.
Some dudes need to give it up, right? At some point, you got to be like, okay, I'm 79 years old. Maybe it's
how many more homoerotic volleyball scenes can I film on a beach? Yeah.
But there were girls in the one in the most recent one. I didn't get that double quarter pack football that they were playing. I've never heard of that before, so maybe that's something new.
Breakdancing was in the Olympics, so.
Oh my God! Did you guys see the troll that?
Wait, is that what they called that? Yeah, that was breakdancing, huh? Ooh.
I guess here's what happened. This doesn't surprise me at all because this is absolutely how the Olympics would do it. They said, okay, ballroom dancing and break dancing. Okay, we're gonna have break dancing for diversity or whatever, and then ballroom dancing, you're out. You're not going to be in. So the federation designed to take care of ballroom dancing said, well, we'll just take care of break dancing for you guys. And the Olympics said, sure, no problem. You guys, it's dancing. You guys got it. And then they farmed out all of the work essentially because they had no idea what breakdancing even was. And the woman who did the troll woman who did that freaking 0 point.
Here's the thing. I don't think she was a troll because her background's been investigated and she's got a degree in intersectional whatever.
Listen. This is a left-wing troll against culture, right? I mean, it's essentially what it is. She takes herself completely seriously, and ultimately, she is the one who actually was then asked to pick somebody to be the Australian representative breakdancing at the Olympics. And
good Lord! Oh boy!
So that's how that happened.
I can't believe we're at 2 hours and 37 minutes and we're spending time on breakdancing.
Yeah.
Man, we watched a 2-minute Trump ad, so go figure. All right, guys, that's all I've got for today. I need to go to bed. It is 1:00 in the morning here, gentlemen.
Joe, stick around if you would.
Being here.
Yep.
Watcher, you're doing the Lord's work out there. You and the wife have a safe trip home.
Thank you, sir.
And gentlemen, if you haven't done it already, like the video, subscribe to our channel, hit the bell for notifications, share it out there with all your buddies because hey, we need the help. And as always, stay safe.